Hey, what's up, everybody? So we're almost done with this month, and as I've been saying, I've been spending this entire month watching Christian horror movies. Yes, there's a bunch of them. Christian movies made by Christians for Christian purposes, but have horror elements to them. They're trying to actually scare you. So there's all kinds of different movies. Check out this video in the card or in the description where I talked about why I'm watching these movies throughout this month. But we're almost done every single day watching these movies. And my friends are getting worried about me watching so many of these movies.
Yo, I don't know what the hell Damon's gonna do after this. Not like content-wise, but I just mean like in viewing, in like watching regular movies again. Like, or engaging in any sort of like pop culture content, right? Like, I feel like there's like a month long of just constant streaming. Like, he's been streaming every day. Watching a movie. He's literally gonna be watching 31 fucking Christian horror movies. Holy fuck.
It's true. This last Saturday, we watched the Christian horror movie Unwanted Presence, and it was a bad movie, but it was so much better than all the other bad movies we've been seeing that the whole time I was like, this movie is so good.
Oh, snap. This Christian woman has a gun in her house. We never see that. I think it's the first time I've seen a Christian family have a gun in their house in all these Christian movies. Day 24. It's one of his arts. Ooh. Look at all this show don't tell going on right now. Also very rare for all the movies.
And so I wanted to make a whole video about this movie. And another big reason is also because it was very strange, particularly in how they portrayed the interactions between employers and employees throughout the whole movie. On this channel, we talk a lot about the way that Christianity intersects with leftist politics, and so, of course, I found this fascinating. One of my hopes for the future of the church is that they would stop being an institution that continues to side with the interests that further oppress and exploit the working class, and that they would stop making their church services simply places where they encourage people to go back into the work week and accept their exploitation with a Christian smile. And what I hope the church would eventually become is a place that encourages and empowers people to fight for their liberation, to unionize their workplaces, to join revolutionary orgs, to strike and to fight for better conditions and autonomy, and for the eventual full co-ownership of their workplaces and resources in solidarity with the working class all over the place. That all seems very Christian to me. But of course, until we get there, our culture is dominated by messages paid for by the ruling class that encourages people to work against their own interests and to compete with one another based on this misguided hope of becoming part of the ruling class themselves. And while that goes on, there will always be churches that theologically justify the status quo. That is how it works throughout all of church history. And so, of course, we also see Christian movies that seek to theologically justify the status quo. And so we see a lot of that in this Christian movie. So throughout this whole movie, Unwanted Presence, we see a lot of strange interactions between bosses and their low-level employees, and even between hired services and their rich clients. And it's clear that most of these low-level employees and hired service workers are in the movie to provide comic relief. But throughout the movie, bosses treat them horribly, and so I empathize with them. And so the movie is not about them, but for me, it's about them. The script wanted me to laugh at them, but it had the opposite effect. The movie starts off with this woman in this house that we're going to see throughout the movie, and she kills herself during this depressive episode, and then we don't see her family's response to this tragedy, we see her co-worker's response to this tragedy. We cut to the next day at her job at the news station she's an anchor for, and her boss is screaming with a cigar in his mouth, wondering where she is. And then the woman's older and less attractive assistant comes up to the boss, begging to take her place as anchor that day.
Give me a chance, Mr. Klein. Trust me, I can do this.
Mr. Klein.
What?
Mark's stuck in traffic.
What?
He's stuck in traffic.
Looks like I'm your only option.
Oh, you gotta be kidding. Get hair and makeup on her, get her in a suit top or something. This is your chance. Don't mess it up.
And it's clear we're supposed to laugh here, like, LOL, this unattractive woman thinks she can be on camera. And then the boss ends up needing to put her on because the woman isn't coming in and she gets on camera. Anyway, a coworker goes to the house and no one is answering the door, and she walks up to the nosy neighbor lady, Mrs. Jones, perpetually raking her front yard the whole movie, and she asks her what's going on.
Her car's still here. Have you seen her leave with anyone?
I heard a shot. She's probably dead.
No.
Just like all the others.
No.
Just like all the others. I love this woman. She's one of my favorites. But yeah, it turns out this house has a history of people dying mysteriously in this house, influenced by something demonic, perhaps? Anyway, the cops go in and go out. And then now who does this story choose to follow? The real estate agents who are trying to sell this house.
I've got a house I need to sell and sell quickly, but it's going to be a few days before we can get in there.
And so the real estate agents try to clean the house up a bit, but are immediately spooked by ghostly presences. And so one of them realizes she needs to hire a cleaning service to clean the house and to deal with these dark forces themselves, where she's safe somewhere else. And then the cleaning team shows up and, oh, look, the first black people we've seen in this movie. Yeah. So they throw in the black cleaning team, hoping they survive this dangerous haunted house. And of course, they get spooked too and get out of there.
Come down quick!
Now this real estate agent has to find a new cleaning team to sacrifice, and she finds the cheerful cleaning crew.
We'll make your house look new. We're the cheerful cleaning crew. We know just what to do. No mess too great for us, so you don't have to fuss. Leave us in your house a while, and we will
Keep this house happy until I can sell it.
Look how cheerful they are.
Rosie, you take the bathrooms.
Yes,
Sophie,
my
you
favorite.
take the kitchen.
Yes.
Henrietta, you take the bedroom. All the stuff we're taking out goes in these garbage bags. Okay, ladies, let's clean and sing.
And they clean that whole house while singing Jesus songs.
Whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his
Whatever's been spooking everyone.
And this is the only Christian reference throughout the whole movie until the very end, which is pretty rare for a Christian movie, but this movie is definitely different. But the whole time I was watching this scene, I was overwhelmed with cringe and imagining the ridiculous amount of emotional labor required of this cheerful cleaning crew. We're going to see a lot of emotional labor throughout this movie, especially later. So emotional labor is a concept defined initially by the sociologist Arlie Hochschild in her book, The Managed Heart, Commercialization of Human Feeling. And so emotional labor refers to the emotions that we have to display and regulate and manage as a requirement of our job in the workplace during our interactions with customers and coworkers and superiors. And Arlie Hochschild says, I use the term emotional labor to mean the management of feeling to create a publicly observable facial and bodily display. Emotional labor is sold for a wage and therefore has exchange value. The most obvious examples of jobs that require high emotional labor are daycare centers, nursing homes, hospitals, airports, stores, call centers, classrooms, social welfare offices, dental offices, and I'm sure you can think of some more, but ultimately every job requires some form of emotional labor. even if you don't ever interact with customers, because there is emotional labor required of you in the way that you act with your boss as well. It's not a part of your job description, but you know it's required of you to be overly friendly with your boss, or else you risk getting fired. And emotional labor has also been linked with eventual burnout, especially in those more public-facing jobs. Burnout can come as a result of identifying too wholeheartedly with your job. And what's funny about that is business gurus say that people should identify wholeheartedly with their job, and that should be encouraged. But people aren't getting paid enough to identify wholeheartedly with their job, especially in these customer service jobs. They really aren't. It's ridiculous. And we'll talk more about emotional labor later with our more main characters who haven't appeared yet. But like I said, look at the ridiculous amount of emotional labor required of this cheerful cleaning crew. They're even required to sing while their client isn't even around.
You and me, sister, in his hands.
Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you?
And as they're singing these Jesus songs, I can't help but feel like the implication here, whether intentional or not, is that having Jesus makes emotional labor effortless. And this is the kind of message that I've seen preached by pastors to their congregants. They encourage them to display their faith to their coworkers through being a joyous and grateful and passionate coworker. And when they start to feel like they want to complain or speak up about unfair conditions in their workplace, they have a little voice in them that goes, no, you can't complain. Be grateful, be happy, be a Christian, and forgive the people at your work who may be treating you unfairly. So in the workplace, emotional labor is required of all of us, but a lot of pastors end up asking their congregants to practice even more emotional labor. Okay, let's move on. The movie finally gets to our protagonist, Lindsay Parker. We see her leave her previous job and leave town and drive into a new town for a new job. And throughout the movie, we go back and forth between this workplace and this house. And we're never really clear what this business even is, but we're supposed to know that it is a very serious and important business, and she is a very serious and important boss, superior to everyone in the building.
For those that don't know me yet, I'm Lindsay Parker, your new executive director. First, I'd like to compliment you on all your past achievements.
Oh yeah, and here's the 3 low-level employees eavesdropping outside the important meeting. They become my favorites. They're the protagonists in my eyes. We'll see more of them in a bit.
My presence here today means change and opportunity. Change from the old ways of doing things and on with the new. Together, we're going to take this company to a new level. Right now, we are considered lagging far behind our competitors. Currently, we're 8th place based on current trending. Beginning today, that's going to change. Our goal is to be number 1 in the industry.
Still no clue what business they're in, so this is all just super vague business jargon. But remember, we need to be at number 1, not number 8.
To accomplish this goal, we have to have a plan and the ability to execute this plan. We must be focused on our resources, our efforts, and skill sets from every single member of this team. There's nothing that can stand in our way. We will be number 1 within the next 24 months. My secretary will email you to confirm your personal appointments with me. I want to thank you for coming. I'm excited about our future. Now let's get to work.
Still no idea what they do here, but okay, who cares? Back to my favorite characters.
Man, we're gonna have to really start working around here. Well, they have to give us at least a break in the morning and one in the afternoon. It's the law.
That's true. You know, she's pretty, but man, she sure is tough.
She's pretty, but tough. When I first saw these three in the movie, I felt like I had already seen like 50 faces in this movie, and I was pretty confused, and I wasn't sure if we had seen them earlier in the movie or if we were at the workplace of that previous homeowner. I didn't know what was going on, but as the movie went on, I came to love them, especially in this scene when they're talking about working more hours and needing more breaks and thinking about the law requires them to have breaks. I was feeling for them, and then I realized that actually those lines are only in there so that we could laugh at them for being lazy, because they're actually always in the break room throughout the whole movie. And when I realized that toward the end, I did laugh, but I loved them too much to care.
Carrie, you're gonna have to...
I love how they're always in the break room. I'm just always in the break room. I don't know why it's so funny to me. They're just always in the break room. How are they not union? How are they not unionizing? They don't give a fuck. I think it's funny too, because in the beginning they're like, she doesn't even give us enough breaks. Like, it's like against the law, and I thought that they really weren't getting breaks. But I think that line was in there just to show that they always want to be on break. So anyway, these low-level employees are a little worried, but the Christian secretary has no complaints. Of course.
Well, she's beautiful, she's brilliant, but she's still very friendly. I think the corporation paid big bucks to get her.
All right, back to my favorites.
Shut up. Shh. Miss Parker is really serious about us being more productive. Well, I knew that would happen. She'd come here and start changing everything. If we want to keep our jobs, we have to get serious about work.
And don't forget about the bonus we get if we stick with it.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
I'm pulling for y'all. So now let's finally connect these storylines. Lindsay Parker is looking for a house, and a coworker connects her to a realtor friend, the one we met earlier, and she goes to check out the house, and the realtor doesn't tell her about the history of the house. She says it has history, but she doesn't say what it is. And Lindsay is too tired of living in a hotel to care to ask about it, and this realtor, of course, takes the opportunity to not warn her about the dangers of the house. And house sold. Lindsay then meets Mrs. Jones, the nosy next-door neighbor.
I'm your new neighbor, Lindsay Parker.
Hi, Mrs. Jones.
And I think a big reason I love Mrs. Jones is because she is the only character in the movie that actually speaks down to Lindsay Parker, while all the other characters are afraid of her or suck up to her.
And you need to leave. You've worn out your welcome.
Thank you for letting me...
Just leave. And take that animal with you.
Mrs. Jones doesn't care who Lindsay is. So, Lindsay starts to notice some strange occurrences throughout the house. Pretty spoopy. A ghost that looks like the previous homeowner is haunting the house too, and yada yada. Who cares? Okay, back to work. Lindsay befriends Corey, the director of purchasing, which is the only job title I heard in this whole movie. But anyway, Lindsay ends up confiding to Corey about her haunted house problem.
Please don't tell anyone. I don't want anyone thinking that I'm emotionally unstable and losing it. Oh, I feel like I am.
What would y'all do? What would y'all do in chat if your mean boss, who, like those other people were saying, is mean and tough and barely gives us any breaks, if your boss told you, I think my house is haunted, but Don't tell anyone. I don't want anyone to know because I don't want people to think that I'm too emotionally unstable for this job. What would you all do? Would you keep the secret? Would you keep your terrible boss's secret? Or would you tell somebody to try to get rid of the boss? I'm not paid enough to care. I'm starting a union and she's fucked both spiritually and financially. I tell everyone. Secretly recording? There we go. Corey doesn't go with any of those suggestions, but her genius idea is to have a housewarming party where they invite a whole bunch of people just to see what happens. What is it with these professional managerial folks in this movie who always go to throwing other people into danger to solve their problems? And then see what Lindsay says here.
You're a genius.
Well, I have my moments.
Oh. But who would I invite? I just know you and Carrie.
Well, there's the 3 that hang out in the break room.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Who cares if any ghost eats them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yo. This boss. Oh my god. Did y'all hear that? So Lindsay starts inviting people and then she goes to invite the break room crew.
Unbelievable. I cannot take all this extra work any longer. What is Miss Parker's problem?
Really? Mindy?
Oh, hi, Miss Parker. We were just taking our 10 o'clock break. You're looking so pretty today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The boss walks up and we're supposed to laugh at, oh, they just got caught complaining while the boss walks up. So funny, these lazy employees. But no, I empathize with them because, yeah, they are required to do more work. And I hate Lindsay Parker at this point in the movie because of how she talked about my favorites.
You have to get with Carrie for the address. That's okay. Thank you.
Now we're talking. We've been invited to the boss's house for dinner.
Yeah. You think we're going to get a raise?
Nice. That'd be nice.
And there, I'm sure we're supposed to laugh at these lazy employees who only care about getting a raise, but they should only care about getting a raise instead of spending time outside of work to go to their boss's house for dinner for nothing. To the boss's house that's fine with sacrificing them to the ghosts. So, at the dinner party, one of my favorites asks to go to the bathroom. And, of course...
What the heck?
What was that?
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes, I don't guess. What did you do in there, Carol? What do you mean? Did you see the bathroom?
I'm telling you, there's something weird in this house.
I believe you.
Miss Parker, if you'll excuse me, I'm leaving. I'm really sorry. It was nice of you to invite us. Thank you.
I've got to go too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Miss.
So they get out of there after being sacrificed to the ghosts. And then the next day, they're still expected to care about the ghosts in their boss's house.
If you thought what you witnessed last night was bad, let me tell you, it got worse. I went into my bedroom, and there was blood splattered all over the walls.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was awful.
This scene right here is why I wanted to call this video the emotional labor of caring about the ghosts in your boss's house. I love their faces right here.
And even worse, I had to spend the night with my neighbor that hates my guts.
Oh, gosh.
I'm so exhausted.
But seriously, they're not being paid enough to do all this extra work that they're now required to do, and they're not being paid enough to also care about the ghosts in their boss's house. And even if they did care and actually wanted to help with their boss's ghost problem, the power dynamic here forces them to need to care. Because if they were to tell their boss, look,
I don't care about your ghost problem. I'm just here to do my job and not get involved in your personal problems. Then they would obviously risk getting fired. And that isn't right. Especially because I've heard situations where someone shared their personal problems with their coworkers or their boss, and then they got fired because the boss thought they were unstable or something. And yet, here we are in this situation where the boss, Lindsay, is sharing her personal problems, and everyone has to care and try to even help her with it outside of business hours. I don't like that. Nobody's being paid enough for this. These people don't deserve that. Especially since Lindsay tried to use them as sacrifices to the ghosts. Frickin' Lindsay, man. So anyway, they try to convince Lindsay to hire a psychic to get rid of the spirit in her house, and she eventually agrees, and she hires the most expensive psychic in town and the most expensive ghost hunting team in town to come in the next week, just in case. And I'm just going to rush through all this, but the message trying to be portrayed here becomes clear when you understand these kinds of movies. And that message is ghosts and spirits and all that are always actually demons in disguise, and you can't get rid of them with psychics or ghost hunters, but the only thing that can get rid of them is the power of the Holy Spirit. Like the Pentecostal version of those horror movie priests who are like, the power of Christ compels you, or something like that. And so, of course, the psychic fails. And of course, then the ghost hunters fail. And finally, in the last 15 minutes of this movie, Christianity comes out of nowhere. And we see Lindsay's Christian secretary finally praying to Jesus for her boss to keep her safe. And then the next day, she suggests this.
I know that there are rules about speaking religion in the workplace, and I could lose my job for what I'm about to say. But I've been watching this program for quite some time now, and it's about a couple in Florida, and they interview people who come to them for help. They've been doing spiritual house cleaning for over 20 years.
So, you tried to hire psychics, tried to hire ghost hunters. Looks like you forgot to look someone else up in the phone book, and that someone is Jesus. So they hire the final team, Dr. Paul and Claire Hollis of Living Free Ministries, a deliverance ministry couple who specialize in praying demons out of houses. And here they are. Of course, this is them. So cool. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say this movie started off saying, based on a true story. The Hollises are a real couple that really do this stuff. Oh yeah, and this whole movie was written by Claire Hollis. But I'm so serious when I say this. This movie is literally the Pentecostal version of The Conjuring. A demon terrorizes the house. They try all kinds of ways to get rid of it until finally the experienced couple, the Warrens or the Hollises, come in and actually get rid of it. The difference in this movie is that the couple doesn't make an appearance in the movie until the last 15 minutes. Also in this movie, the Hollises are played by another deliverance ministry couple. They're not actors. Also, the psychic was also played by a deliverance minister. So the Hollises threw in all their deliverance ministry friends in this movie. So they have a conversation, and the Hollises tell Lindsay what this spirit actually is.
In simplistic terminology, God created everything. And all an evil spirit is a fallen angel. And since God is the creator, they still have to obey his voice.
Then Paul Hollis prays the demons out.
I come against you in the name of Jesus. I command you to go. I take authority over you in the name of the Lord. You depressive spirit, taking on the form of Lord to go.
I will kill you!
No, you won't. You're an unwanted presence here, and you must go in Jesus' name.
I will kill you!
I take authority over you in Jesus' name. No, you won't. Jesus, you're an unwanted presence here. So leave now. Go now. Go now.
And then they tell Lindsay that the only way to make sure that she's safe from these demons forever is to ask Jesus into her heart. And in this very high stress environment, she feels like this is the only way to make sure she's not killed by demons. And so she does it. And then we cut to 2 years later. Remember? 2 years?
We will be number one within the next 24 months.
And look, they did it. They're number one. No longer number 8 in trending, whatever that means. And she's even up for a possible promotion.
I have to tell you, Lindsay, the owner told my dad that he's really impressed. Really? I've even heard the word partner being thrown around.
You're kidding. It's wonderful. It's incredible, yeah?
And back to my favorites.
I never thought we would make it to number one. I know, I thought it was all just talk.
I can't believe the raise.
Cheers to that.
And I genuinely feel like in this moment, the script wants us to laugh at them once again. Like, oh, these silly people, all they care about is their raise. But that is all they should care about. These people have lives. And of course, one more appearance from Mrs. Jones.
Hi, Mrs. Jones. Thank you for coming.
Have you seen any ghosts lately?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Then Lindsay goes into the house, sits in her rocking chair, and reads the Bible in holy slow motion. Yes, yes, of course. And cut to credits. Oh, and there's the Hollises, and the number you can reach them at. Wait, hold up. Was this whole movie just one big promotion for their ministry? It actually may have been. Okay, now it seems like the message that's being displayed here, whether intentional or not, is that Jesus helps you succeed in business. Which is kind of a classic trope in Christian films and secular films, where you got a bad capitalist who is bad because he's mean to his employees that he exploits. And then he has a life-changing experience throughout the movie. And then he's a good capitalist who's nice to his employees that he exploits. And he's richer. And within the evangelical world, especially as you get closer to prosperity gospel stuff, you hear this message that being rich isn't bad, just being rich and not a Christian is bad. And all those scriptures that speak against the rich and prophesy their destruction and downfall are only talking about the non-Christian rich. And if you're a Christian and rich, it doesn't apply to you. But those are all complete lies. And even the holy rich are criticized. The rich is the rich. But the idea that I'm picking up on at the end of this movie here is that with Jesus, all the alienation that people face in the workplace just disappears. In this neoliberal era of late-stage capitalism, neoliberalism and its hyper-individualistic pull yourself up by your bootstraps rhetoric claims to end class struggle by giving us a new category of social division, not between capitalist exploiters and exploited workers, but between winners and losers. Neoliberalism claims that exploiter and exploited divide isn't that big of a deal because you're only on the exploited worker side of the divide because of your mindset. If you just adjusted your mindset from loser to winner, then you can work really hard and cross that divide and become a capitalist exploiter yourself. And if you can't make it, it's because you're not working hard enough. And of course, several churches do their job at theologically justifying this status quo, and through long and complicated theological gymnastics claim that Jesus takes away that feeling of alienation, because alienation isn't really a material struggle, but a perspective. And so the solution is a perspective change. And if you could just work hard enough with a Christian smile, then all your complaints will dissolve into gratitude, and maybe one day you can be the boss too. And in this movie, what I find really interesting is that the demon cuts across that divide and turns Lindsay Parker from a winner into a loser. Anthropologists have studied reports of demonic possession throughout the world, and what they found is that demonic possession is often reported as happening through women, children, and men of low status in their communities. And that low status part is important because those women and children were also of low status. They were often in positions where they did not have the power to voice their concerns and their issues. And then the demon who spoke through them had a message for their superiors who were abusing them in some way. I'll talk more about this in my video on healing, which you can find in the description. But whether you believe that demons are a real spiritual force or simply a psychological break that manifests itself through an alternate stream of consciousness, what seems to be true about most cases of demonic manifestation is that the demonic manifests itself through the powerless as a judgment on the powerful. We see this in the Gospels as well, with the story of Legion. There is a man filled with demons that the city can't contain, and so Jesus goes to heal the man, and the demons say, "I am Legion." Legion was a word used to refer to a fleet of Roman soldiers. And Roman soldiers had occupied their land and forced the Jews to assimilate to their culture and their gods. So it makes a lot of sense that that traumatic oppression would manifest itself through this man by the name of Legion. Often the demon has a message, and that message is often a judgment on the powerful. And so ultimately, this movie is a tragedy because Lindsay Parker does not heed that message. Instead, she uses the power of God to get rid of the demon, but then also uses it to gain more power without questioning how she's mistreating her employees. And ultimately, as many people quipped in my Twitch chat as we were watching the movie, the real unwanted presence is not demons, but bosses.
My presence here today.
My presence here today. My presence.
Thank you for watching this video. We only have a couple more days of watching these movies, so make sure you check out my Twitch stream and follow me on there at twitch.tv/whoisdamon. Check us out tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you would like to support me, I'd greatly appreciate it at patreon.com/Damon Garcia. And shout out to all my patrons already over there: Balaj Vince Seidel, Blessed Are the Poor, Jemima McAlpine, Josephine Clancy, Justin Powell, Stephen Harp, Alex Lorenzen, The Commie Christian, Curses and Prayers, David, Eurotrash, Holly Deering, James Finlay, Jason, Julianne King, Keegan James, Kristen Mouse, Marina Black, Miami Realtor, Mimi McGann, Mona Reed, New Transcendentalist, Nine Foldrin, Pauline Orr, Peter A., Peter John Blake, Randall Day, Refined Your Scene, Samuel Sakwe, Shiftlock, Stephen Hu, and everyone else. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Happy Halloween coming in a bit. See you later. Bye-bye.